to welcome our next speakers, which Dr. Malek Lataoui and Dr. Walid Lataoui from Polytech of Sousse. So the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much. So just a minute. So it's okay, our presentation is in full screen?
No, it's not on full screen. We can't see the slides.
Even now?
Yeah. Maybe you can. You have to put it. I don't know.
A minute.
Put as slideshows.
Sorry?
Or maybe PDF, I don't know. Did you use a PDF motion?
No, PowerPoint, but
PowerPoint.
You should share the whole screen, not just a window, in order for it to show.
And now it's okay or not?
Not yet, no.
Not yet.
Sir, can you register it on PDF like Margie proposed?
Maybe.
It doesn't take a lot of time.
Yeah.
Same issue, Shane.
What?
It was the same issue. I cannot understand what it was.
It's the same thing. Just I'm saving it as PDF.
Okay, fine.
Okay.
It's okay, Dr. Malek. You can take your time. We are very patient here. Wait for you. You don't have to worry. So everyone can sit back, relax while he saves the PDF. We look forward to see your slide.
Maybe we have to put the music.
Such a nice music. It reminds me of times when I visited Indonesia. I need to get that track. I'm not sure what song is that.
You can ask from our student the instrumental track. Maybe they can share it with you later on.
That's called Gamelan.
What is it called?
Oh, yeah. Gamelan.
Gamelan. Okay.
Oh, nice.
It's okay right now, or?
It's okay, but just put it in full screen. It's okay.
Just a minute.
Affichage.
Mode lecture. It's okay now?
Yes, you can see.
Yes, it's better. Yes.
Yes, great. So our presentation today will be the ancestral architectural techniques of water management as a model for a sustainable landscape and city. So today it will be presented by me and my brother and colleague Walid Lataoui, who is a lecturer in design at the Institute of Fine Arts in Sousse and also in Polytechnic School of Sousse. And also he's a landscape architect. He has a PhD in landscape territory and heritage. So then the plan of our presentation will be, first of all, we will present the situation and the territorial context of Sousse, beginning from Mediterranean Sea, then Africa, Tunisia, and then Sousse. Second point will be historical overview of Sousse, Punic period, Roman period, Arab period, and Turk period. Then third point will be urban context, Medina of Sousse. We will talk about urban fabric of the Medina, urban landmarks, and some patio houses. Then fourth point will be water management, ancestral techniques, Medina of Sousse scale, Tunis, and then a little bit Cairo, Then after that, we will talk about house scale, beer and measure, whose wells, water wells and cisterns measure. Then fifth point will be intra and extramuros agri-landscape resources of the Medinas in general. It will be introduced and presented by my colleague Walid. The image of the past landscape identity, Sousse agri-landscape town, the olive growing soil, then a diversified plant palette and an identity to be rediscovered. First of all, for the situation and territorial context, Tunisia is located, as you know, in the center of the North Africa coast. It integrates the northern part of the African continent. It has been of great strategic and commercial importance, given its location in the heart of the Mediterranean basin. Most Tunisian cities have historic centers, we call them Medinas. So the constituent core of the Medina is none other than urban landmarks, souks, and patio houses, which has organized according to determined urban fabric. For the historical overview of Sousse, we will talk about the citation. Thanks to its very favorable site at the bottom of a relatively large gulf, which sheltered it from storms, and at the foot of a rather high hill, which allowed it to defend itself effectively, Hadromet. So it's the historian Anwar El-Fendi who said that. For the historical overview of Sousse, there is different periods. So the Punic period, the Roman period, the Arab period, the Turk period, and the French colonization and independence and until nowadays. We will do it fast to go forward. So the Punic period, it's between 18th before Christ to 146 before Christ. Then the Roman period, and after that the arrival of Islam. Then the defeat of the Byzantines against the Muslim troops of Abdullah ibn Zubayr makes the entry to Sousse into the Arab fold in the year 654. Sousse becomes the port of the capital, Kairouan, and the summer residence of sovereigns. This period will be fertile in construction and development. So during this period, many buildings and many works were done during this period. The Ribat of Sousse, the first mosque in Sousse, the Boufteta Mosque, La Kasbah, the Great Mosque of Sousse, the rampart, water supply works, and development of the Sofra cistern. These buildings, as well as the urban fabric, have been repeatedly rearranged and enlarged as needed during the different dynasties and according to different occupants. Sousse, between the year 881 until nowadays, inside the Medina, the French only built a church, Notre Dame, and a few multi-story hotels. The European arteries of the Medina benefits from the development work of the 1920s. These different streets were paved or cemented. Apart from this work, they built the sewerage network and the supply of drinking water and electricity. After independence and with the advent of tourism, there were development works which concerned three important elements of the Medina: the Ribat, the enclosure, and the gates, especially Bab al-Gharbi. In 1988, the Medina of Sousse was listed as UNESCO World Heritage Site. During the 19th and 2000s years, the number of shops continued to multiply exactly in the eastern area of the Medina. The same area is now a second Souki center with the traditional center known by Souk Arba. For the urban urban context of Sousse Medina, the Medina of Sousse is structured along two main axes converging toward the Souki center. The first axis, east to west, connect Bab el Gharbi to Bab el Jadid. And the second, north-south, connect Bab el Qibli to Bab Har. The structure generated three zones. The commercial area, commercial activities are mainly distributed along the main north-south and east-west routes. The Rabat Great Mosque, religious pole. The pole has an eccentric position due to historical reasons. The residential zone urban fabric is similar to that to the Medina of Tunis. The urban fabric of Sousse is like we presented here. You can see that there is different axes. Here you can find in green the principal axis, in red traditional souks, in yellow new souks, and then it's a French, but I'm trying to translate it. The blue ones here are secondary streets or roads. Here also in purple, you can see the peripheral roads near the rampart of Sousse, and here in gray you can find impasses. So later I will share this document with students so they can use it for their analysis. So here you can find some urban landmarks in Sousse, like the ramparts, the Ribat, the Great Mosque, the Kasbah, and also like you see in this photo, the Museum of Qubba. So some urban landmarks here. You can see the Great Mosque of Sousse with his specific architecture and his eccentric position among the town or the Medina of Sousse. Then here the Ribat, the Kasbah, Isqaq Mosque. So we will discuss and we will present here the water management ancestral techniques. So the importance of water for living and for the installation of cities due to the sacredness of water in Islam. Different ways of collecting water on the scale of the Medina and on the scale of the house. So we can find beer, water well, mesh cisterns, two ancestral techniques for water management. There is other techniques for collecting water on the scale of the Medina, the Mesna, and the Noria. I will show you later some photos about them. And an authentic picturesque landscape, the use of earth, fire, and water creates, so humans create pottery. Pottery containers allow the collection, use, cooling, and transport of water. The scale of the Medina of Sousse. So the Mesna is a system. Hello? You are hearing me?
Yes, we can hear you. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So the Mesna is a system for drawing water from a well that was done through an animal walking along a steeply inclined path, sometimes in one direction and sometimes in the other. Example, we can find the Mesna of the Medina of Sousse. The drove path consists of a bridge and a deep tunnel extending it between the neighboring houses. Its role is to supply water to one of the oldest public baths in the city, which is Hammam Sidi Bourad. Here you can see an old photo and a newer one of the place, of the Mesna. We're still talking about the scale of the Medina of Sousse. So there is the Sofra system. It's located equidistant from the rampart of the Medina of Sousse. It was an old Byzantine basilica transformed under the Aghlabids, first into a prison and then into a reservoir system. Using an underground pipe, it collected the water from an impluvium located on the Sidi Dhar hill at the foot of the Kasbah. Mosques were also equipped with large cisterns for use during the dry seasons. So we will talk also about the scale of the Medina of Cairo. So we can find the Noria, which is a wooden lifting machine powered by an animal, donkey or camels, like in the case of the Medina of Cairo, made up of horizontal drum motor, a vertical wheel, and a string of pottery buckets, which powered by the vertical wheel descend at the bottom of the well to fill with water and go back up. So here the example of the Noria of Cairo, Bir Baruta in Cairo. It's a water drawing system dating from the Middle Ages. It's one of the latest applications in urban settings in Tunisia. Still talking about the scale of the Medina of Cairo, we can find an important hydraulic infrastructure, which is the Aghlabid basins, Fisqiya. Now there is only 2 basins, which were part of about 15 extramural basins which supplied the city with water. They are among the most important hydraulic works in the history of the Muslim world. They earned the city its name of City of Cisterns and won the admiration of travelers. They were fed by a clever draining system for rainwater and tributaries from the Mergeli Wadi, which flow into the surrounding depression. The waters were captured by small dams and an adduction canal which led them to the small basin. Then also you can talk about the scale of the Medina of Tunis. It's among the most important infrastructure in Tunisia. The aqueducts of Zarwan, which is Roman aqueducts, it's becoming more and more. Tunis is becoming more and more populated, so the Medina could no longer meet its water needs. So the Hafsid Sultan al-Mustansir ordered the works, allowing the conveyance of water from the sources of Zarwan toward the capital, of which primarily the mosque Zitouna, and towards the princely garden, Abu Fihr. They ended in 2067. He ordered the restoration of 116 kilometers of aqueducts out of the 132. That makes up that of the longest aqueducts of the Roman Empire. It was necessary to build a new section of aqueduct to serve the city of Tunis. It's the Bardo Aqueduct, which is in this part. Here, you can see it. And then they make it, they make a deviation to go to the garden of Abu Fihr, which is science city of Sousse, of Tunis, sorry. On the scale of patio houses, you can find the Mejel, which is a cistern reservoir, which is an ancestral system for collecting rainwater that has become part of the customs and culture of the inhabitants of the Medinas. Back at the bottom of the house, the Mejel is a solid construction having a conical shape, and its depth varies from 4 meters to 8 meters. It is maintained by lime applied annually to the walls and roof and by the use of bleach. The traditional use of extraction of water by the seal makes it possible to oxygenate the latter by fighting against stagnation. The measure is generally marked by a marble base, like you see here. He's generally marked by a marble base. So using water, earth, and fire at the same time, man created and fashioned pottery vessels of varying sizes, several tools, and receptacles of different size were fashioned for use in containing, storing, and transporting water. So here you can find some examples of water pottery, intended of use of water, of course, like حلبية أبو ستة, بقال, مشرب, حليب. So I will let my colleague Walid to present the second part of this presentation.
The image of past the landscape identity of some Tunisians Medina. Citizens interested in nature and the landscape. Arab travelers and chronicles between the 12th and 16th centuries reported the description of residents and places, as well embellished spaces with orchards and gardens. This interest in the landscape has been developed through the construction of resorts villégiature residents situated very close to La Marsa and Sidi Bou Said towns. The French term villégiature designs the vocation of a rest stay, pleasure places, despite the existence of their place, the base, the left for countries residents in the spring. In summer, they would leave the Medina to settle in the residence in the northern surrounding the capital for their freshness and the benefits of the sea air. The rampart imposing Tunisian Medinas and the need for security limited the extension of the Medina. They opened to a pleasant countryside where Sultan and dignitaries had residence, which made the administration and the enchantment of travelers with an urban system reaching a high degree of perfection. Creating middle of 13th century by Al-Mustansir, the garden of Abu Fihr remained the paradise of the sultans. Those various of Burj or Four is the surrounding of Tunis, Sousse, Media, and Sfax, according to Renault, represents a real suburb of gardens. During 13th century and 19th centuries, the city of Sfax, for example, was surrounded by a suburb of garden in which we find extremely typical construction, Burj or Four, built in one floor. And this photo represents the Burj or Four. During this date, Hamouda Bey built Qasr el-Warda, or a place or palace of the rose in Manouba. It should be noted that agriculture was present at the gates of cities of Tunis, Sousa, Sfax, from the gardens of vegetable gardens. For example, Senia, Jnain, Bustan are all terms used to designate this garden cultivated both by peasants and by agriculture workers employed by wealthy city dwellers. For example, this photo represents Nouria Burj Toukabri in Manouba. It's a summer residence. And this plan represents a residence at La Marsa town, which include Nouria. This photo represents Burj Al Aid surrounded by fields and olive tree. Some atmospheres of houses in the Medina of Tunis. Dar Ben Abdallah, for example, and its patio with a central fountain with 3 Carrara marble bassins. This photo represents Dar Othman has been revealed by the Hafsids. It represents a planted patio. Dar Nasram was one of the most beautiful gardens in Sidi Bou Said towns. Embankment planted with olive tree, a cactus, cypress, perfumes, flowers, and the orchards contained fruit like fig fruit, orange, lemon, peaches. This photo represents the place of the rose and the patio and the bassa. It's said that this name came from the rose of Senia Bailikal, large garden planted with fruit trees like orange trees, lemon trees, or flowers that adorn the gardens. Sou's agriculture landscapes towns. The rural area around the Medina was, in fact, the favorite resort of the Sousian Garden of Sahlul, Khzema, for example, and Sidi Abdel Hamid Gardens in the south are characterized by their landscape and their burj. And this land represents the Hadramaut occupation and the situation of the Medina. This cut represents a dominance of olive groves, orchards, and vegetable crops like the ancestral knowledge of the city of Sousse. This photo, this aerial photo represents lands used by agriculture, market garden in the seafront, Senia and olive groves in the background. The identity of landscape is therefore a slow social construction of image and landmarks that permitted the collective imagination of a city, who said Pierre Donadieu. For a long time, the picking of the olive tree was daily image of agriculture in the Tunisian Sahel. Sahelian agriculture is made by its olive tree forest, a culture that was introduced by the Phoenicians around the 9th century before Christian, and developed by the Romans. Traditional olive grounding is generally dry or semi-irrigated. And this photo represents olive tree and the local adaptation of Greek mythologic themes. The secondary photo represents traditional irrigation in the orchards gardens. Most of the Sousian had a secondary occupation related to agriculture. Each family owned olive groves around the city, as well as vegetable gardens near the city. And this photo represents traditional oil mill. With this historical introduction evoking the landscape of residence or the presentation of agricultural activity, we wanted to show the Tunisians interested in nature and the landscape for a long time. The history of some gardens or orchids garden shows us the Tunisians are interested in fruit species, olive tree, and ornamental gardens, thus combining the useful with the pleasant. A diversified plants palette and an identity to be rediscovered by drawing inspiration from species planted since antiquity. The landscapers try to reproduce certain image related to the culture, the know-how of the citizen and the heritage of the gardens to propose plans and the designs in the image of the tropical Tunisian architecture. It's true that the image of Arab Muslim gardens remains among the demands of citizens. The situation in Tunisia is Mediterranean and is favorable for the introduction of fruit or ornamental species, very appreciated by collectors or nature lovers, thus promoting territorial garden and rich, well-accumulated Mediterranean palette. At the end of my speech, I will try to name some plant species used by landscape which can be very useful to you. Ornamental species to be used in the context of typical Tunisian gardens. The oldest olive tree in Tunisia is in Shraf before the entrance of Hawaria town. This age exceeds 2,500 years. And in this photo, I represents the different plants who can use in the garden: Phoenix dactylifera, Punica granatum, Citrus aurantium, Citrus lemon, Jasma grandiflorum, Rosa canina, Rosa damasciana, Bougainvilliers glabra, Pyrus halepensis, Cupressus sempervirens. Thank you for your attention.
So thank you very much.